Hello, folks. Somebody asked me in one of the comments, I think on my last video on the Hisense TV, about they cloned Tyrone on Netflix, about the graininess, and I think I know what he or she is talking about. Sorry, I don't know by your title who you are, so I don't want to label. But so, anyways, I get what you're saying with this one. Let me put pause on it. So I get what you're saying about the graininess, and I had to make some changes on my U8K, and I think you referred to as the previous year's Hisense. I can't remember in the comment. I apologize if you had the U8, U7K, or a different model other than the U8K. But I think I see what's going on, and I've noticed this problem with anything shot in Dolby Vision. And this show, this movie, this Netflix series, or I don't think it's a series, it's just Netflix film, is shot in. If you go to general, it's shot in Dolby Vision, and I had to take it out. It was in Dolby Vision. Let's see, it was in Dolby Vision Custom by default. That's how my TV handled it, and I had to put in Dolby IQ, and I was able to make some changes because what I'm noticing with this TV is that certain content that the director wants you to see, your director producer of a show or a movie wants you to see, is it locks out some features. And it may just not be that. It may just be that Hisense, with their licensing, with anything shot, let's say in Dolby Vision, they're not going to let you go on the settings and change and go far off the beaten path, I guess, so to speak. They want you to see it as the software, the Dolby Vision is set, which, in my opinion, Dolby Vision, I've said it in the previous videos, is it's too dark for me because I like a bright, poppy, high contrast, unnatural picture. Let's say, I'll be honest with you, because I like the pop, and it's not because my living room is super bright. I don't know what it is, but that's just my taste. Now, my wife at night complains about this, our new U8K 75-inch being so bright that it hurts her eyes, but that's because I have the settings higher than probably most people, so I do turn it down. I do switch the settings for her at night. Sometimes I'll grab the remote and just change it, but I have to remember to try to. I'm finding a happy medium between both of us because at night it can be overly bright. There's things where like when I had it kind of set when I first got the TV, where if somebody was like in a scene where they were flashing a flashlight, and the flashlight was going, right straight towards the camera, it looked like you were outside and somebody was flashing a light directly at you. It was that bright, and it looked that realistic. It kind of blew me away, but I could definitely see why I was hurting her eyes. So I did have to tone it down, the contrast, the brightness. But again, I'm not the one that's looking for accuracy. I'm looking for the pop. So you got to keep that in mind. Dolby Vision, I think, it seems like everything I've watched in Dolby Vision so far is very dark. I would say very dark, but much darker. Not to my liking, I'll be honest with you. And I do see what he was saying about the graininess. So the way I fixed it, at least on my U8K, and I thought he said he had a U7K or maybe a previous generation, but just some things to try, is I took it off Dolby Vision Custom, I put it on IQ. I don't know, it just kind of defaulted to this. And what it did do was it turned on my automatic light sensor, which is, it's a sensor built into most Hisenses that it's kind of like the sensor on your cars that turn on your head. Remember, like cars have these sensors that turn your headlights on when it gets to a certain darkness. Well, that's what this does. Is it measures the ambient light in the room, and it calibrates, tries to calibrate for it. But usually, what you end up with is a darker picture. Again, for my taste, that didn't work. So, but I noticed this was the only setting that actually changed it to turn the sensor on. So I had to turn it off. And sometimes I'm even locked out. I'm going to get into that in a second, what it locks up. But I had to turn it off, and it immediately brightened up the picture to my taste. Now, he was talking about more of the graininess, which I was able to resolve by going into, and again, it's going to be a little bit different maybe depending on your model, but I remember I had this on my H9G. I'm not sure I had smooth gradient, but I know I had noise reduction and MPEG noise reduction. and I put my motion enhancement on clearness, although I think that affects the Dolby to my taste less. And it's got super resolution, which I know the H9G, I'm pretty sure that it didn't have. Now I'm trying to do from memory. But when I raised noise reduction and MPEG noise reduction to high, and because it was on low, it seemed to have fixed the gradient, the I don't know what it is, artifacts, which is, it's kind of funny because when you think about artifacts in Dolby Vision, and I don't want to play a lot because, and I'll get to this in a second. Well, I'll play a little bit here. Let me just play a couple, a little bit of clips because. Oh, I got to rush. What's up? Okay. Come on, come on, let me start winning. Wait a minute. I told you, bro. Come on. I got niggas. Hey, hello. Y'all see what's in the house? Okay, so that's obviously a clip during the day, and like I said, it's in Dolby Vision IQ, what I have it in, but it's gonna default to Dolby Vision on any Hisense that has the Dolby, and it's going to, because I think my H9G it did have that also, and it's going to, the picture, it could be that when they filmed this shot, even though I say it looks too dark for my taste, it could be that it's got gray skies, and Dolby Vision's already going to make it not as poppy and bright, like the yellow on the store and the car, the maroon on the car, whatever. Here, let me make sure I'm doing it right. Yeah, it's a dark, like a dark maroon. And even the gray on the car, but you could see a little bit of the graininess, which I get what he's saying about that. And it was much more pronounced until I turned on the MPEG noise reduction and all the clarity settings. I had to ramp them up, which I don't get because you would think with Dolby Vision, everything would be crystal clear, but to me, it would be only just the Dolby Vision would be trying to set you in a different tone of lighting. And what it seems to be doing, at least with this show, is kicking on the artifacts, as far as I can tell. But I did clear it up. It looks pretty good now. And the brightness with Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, I'm not a fan because everything in Dolby to me is overly dark, and I like that poppy bright picture. Okay, so I'm just not a fan of Dolby Vision, anything filmed in Dolby Vision because of that. But to each his own. Now at night it's going to look better because you're in a dark lit room. You don't want stuff super bright. You want the contrast of the deep blacks, but it's to be an individual's taste. But I think that may address, or maybe some settings he can try is make sure it doesn't turn on your light sensor, and that's going to change. But he was talking more about the gradient, the artifacts, and you have to go on your settings and turn on the noise reduction and stuff like that and see if that helps. That did help. Pretty largely helped a lot of it. I wish I could play more, but I don't want to get a copyright strike here. Let me see if I can play a couple. And you see, like to me, like if you look at the yellows on the store, everything's there is kind of a graininess going on, and I'm only getting this with Dolby Vision. I don't know what it is. Anything shot in HDR or SDR, I don't see this. It's super bright, it's super clear, but anything with Dolby, it's not to my taste. I'm just not a huge fan of Dolby, anything shot in Dolby, and I'm hoping unless they correct this, I don't know if it's a software issue, if it's across many TVs, or if it's just a Hisense thing. But I recall Dolby not being very clear and it being very dark on my Hisense. But thankfully, a lot of shows, like some shows on Netflix, are seeming to be more and more shot with it. And it may be, an agreement with, I don't know what's going on with it, why they shoot in it. But anyways, it is the director or producer's content of what they want you to see. So you have to go by the creator's content. But the fact that you're locked out of making any further changes, and that's the thing I don't like about, and it could just be a Dolby licensing thing between Hisense, is that once it defaults to Dolby setting, you can't, I can't change intelligent scene. I'm locked out of that. Content type detection. It pretty much locks me out of some of the features. Let's see, I think I can adjust, and I didn't do this. It jacked up all the contrast and brightness. I usually run like 90 or 80 on contrast and like 70 on brightness, but probably because it's always darker, it seems like it ramped it up. I don't know why. I'm trying to figure out some of the ways that it does things. Color at 50, that's pretty normal. The hue's pretty normal. Clarity, Like I said, it was at low. I turned it on high. That seemed to clear it up. Let me get back to that. But beyond that, like I said, I think that's just the way this Netflix show is shot. Again, I'm not at this point, and maybe I'm just going to have to learn more about the settings. Anything shot in Dolby is looking way too dark for my taste and grainy. I am noticing that with some Netflix shows. I don't know what the deal is with that, and I don't know if it's a Hisense thing across the board or if it's if the Sony 90, what is it? I forget what model it is, the 90 that they're talking about, the kind of the more entry level. You got better processing with Sony. I'm not sure if that has anything to play. I guess somebody with a Sony would have to check it out and chime in on that and see if they get some of the graininess in Dolby or not. But that's a question to be answered. But everything in HDR looks perfect to me. But anything in Dolby, again, not to my taste. But try some of those settings and see if that helps with clearing up the picture. Maybe that'll make it a little more palatable for you. And if you have any comments, go ahead and post them in the comment section. And please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Okay? Thanks. Have a good day.